Chengli and the Silk Road Caravan, Chapter 10. After a week of rest at the oasis of Turpan, the caravan set out once more, and Chengli had learned nothing about his father, except that he could ride a horse and he loved music. It was something, but it wasn't much. When he thought about it at all, he thought how he was not like his father. His father was important. Chengli was nobody. His father loved horses. Chengli only knew camels and donkeys. This was not what Chengli had hoped for. As they prepared to leave Turpan, Master realized that the sun had lost a bit of its heat, and thus the caravan returned to traveling by day. They still walked with the dry, desolate sand of the Taklamakan Desert on their left, but now they walked to the west with the gray of the Gobi Desert far behind them. On their right, Tian Shan Mountains soared into the heavens. Mile followed mile, week followed week, and Chengli kept scanning the horizon, hoping to see more than just the desert haze hanging low against the ground. And then the call came down the line. "Look, a shadow above the haze! It's the double roofs of the tower on the gate to Kucha!" Even with the tower in view, they walked 2 more days before they could see the red brick below the tower, and even then, the view of the archway was blocked by the farms along the river. With the farms came the flocks of sheep. Tiny water wheels lifted water from the narrow river and splashed it into irrigation ditches. Orange persimmons and red pomegranates hung ripening on their trees. Beyond the trees, finally, the crenellated stone wall of the city came into view. Master Feng's caravan set up camp, and by the second day Chengli got his turn to explore the city. "Are you coming?" Chengli shouted to Dakshesh and Sudarshana. "Yes, the princess is coming too," the girl called back. Mei Ling and her royal guard rode their horses up to Chengli. "Where is fourth brother?" Mei Ling asked. "I haven't seen him," Chengli said. "Let's go without him." They approached the city, but stopped to stare at the 2 huge statues of Buddha guarding the entrance, towering twice as high as the wall itself. "Trust in Buddha is strong here," said Dakshesh, and sure enough, inside the city, the streets were crowded with hundreds of brown-robed Buddhist monks mingling with the crowds by the shops, talking in small groups by the bazaar, and standing quietly with their begging bowls held out waiting for gifts. Mei Ling and her guard gave their horses into the care of one of the monks and walked to join Chengli. He grinned and stretched his arms out wide. "This is just like being in Chang'an," he said. "A huge city and thousands of people, all kinds of clothes and all colors of hair. And what a jangle of words! People must come with the caravans and then decide to stay. It really is like being home in Chang'an." "There's a difference, though," Sudarshana said. "Here it seems music comes at us from every street corner." Sure enough, dancers in long, colorful skirts twirled and swayed with delicate hand motions, and arms that sparkled with bracelets of red, blue, and clear beads. Even their slippers glittered with the jewels sewn on. By a fountain a man played on a 2-stringed instrument that looked like a round gourd with a long handle. Down the street 2 drummers strolled along pounding out powerful rhythms, and at a street corner a group of old women stood playing 4-stringed instruments, jade flutes, and a sheepskin drum. Dakshesh laughed. "That old woman is banging on her drum as if it were a naughty child." "I adore big cities," Mei Ling said, her voice rising with excitement. "Truly, I will rot living in a nomad camp. I cannot even imagine living in a tent and drinking tea made of rotten milk." She gave a toss of her imperial head and led the way into the bazaar. Narrow stalls lined both sides of the walkway, where merchants sold everything from nuts and raisins to ornate daggers and bejeweled swords. Others sold hats, knives, boots, shoes, vegetables, and even carpets. Dakshesh stepped around one shopkeeper sitting on the ground, his long striped robe wrapped around his knees and dusty, bare feet sticking out from the folds. Chengli watched a merchant packing fresh eggs in a basket, each layer of eggs protected by a layer of sand. The center of the bazaar opened into a large courtyard crowded with a haphazard collection of rough-hewn tables, wobbly benches, and food vendors selling fresh fruit right next to another selling chunks of roasted lamb or dried squid and octopus brought from the far, far oceans. Side alleys sent out the squeals and snorts of goats and sheep waiting to be traded. "We will eat and watch the entertainment," ordered Mei Ling. "Choose a table at once and order some fruit for each of us." Chengli obeyed. "Kucha is so busy. It makes Chang'an seem calm," Mei Ling said as she settled onto a bench. The royal guard stood behind her and accepted a pear from Chengli. "In the Emperor's city, everyone lives by the Emperor's rules. In Dunhuang, the city of the festivals at the dunes, soldiers and inspectors give the orders. Here I think there must be hundreds of rules, and they are all different." "So here we can do whatever we want," Chengli said, sucking the sweet juice from his pear. I will buy 100 ribbons and tie them all into my hair at once, Sudarshana said, running her hands across her braided hair. I will leave our caravan and join one headed south over the mountains, back to my family, said Dakshesh, climbing up on the bench and pretending to look over the mountains. I, Chengli said grandly, will help our princess escape from the caravan, so she can live forever here, in the city. He bowed low before Mei Ling. Thank you, Skinny One, Mei Ling said. I accept your grand offer, and in return, I promise never again to give the order to remove your head from your shoulders. She laughed and motioned Chengli to rise. Look, Sudarshana pointed left. Dancers from... Persia, interrupted a woman standing nearby. They come every year. The rhythmic beating of the drums kept the dancers twirling in an uneven circle, with their left hands on their hips and left legs almost straight. Their tight-sleeved blouses and long, flowing skirts were embroidered in many colors, and at their waists they wore wide, silver belts. Their hair hung loose and flicked across their faces as they twirled. What fun to dance like that and let your hair hang loose, said Sudarshana. And there, Mei Ling said, pointing straight ahead. Look at all those musicians piled onto one camel. She stared up at the 6 musicians who sat back to back on a platform fitted over the camel's 2 humps. They play such happy music. Even the camel dances to the rhythm. She recognized their song and sang along. Come join us, the drummer called down to Mei Ling. There's always room for one more. Princess, Chengli said, you could escape your fate if you joined a group like that. They travel. No one would ever find you. Oh, Mei Ling shook her head. I couldn't, not really. She watched as the camel swayed in time with the music. But, she grinned and hummed another line, what fun it must be to live like that. Look over there! Chengli nodded to a shadowy group of men hovering together over one filthy table. Their daggers glinted in the sunlight. Cutthroats and thieves, I'm sure. Keep them away from me. But, Dakshesh exclaimed, that's Fourth Brother there, right in the middle of them. He's probably trying to sell something, Chengli grumbled, just as the musician's camels bumped its way between the tables, blocking his view. Fight! Fight! Shouts filled the courtyard. The royal guard jumped forward, pushing Mei Ling down under the table. Dakshesh leaped up on the table. Fourth Brother's right in the middle of the fight, he yelled. Fourth Brother, come out of there right now! Shrieked Mei Ling as she scrambled out from under the table, trying to see. Men ran from all directions, elbowing their way into the right. Fourth Brother disappeared. Find him! Mei Ling shouted. Chengli scrambled over the table and shoved his way into the thrashing tangle of arms and elbows. He ducked one blow and darted between 2 others, but he didn't see Fourth Brother anywhere. The fight spread across the courtyard. Chairs toppled. The musician's camel bolted. Musicians tumbled, instruments fell, and Chengli fought his way back through the mess to Sudarshana and Dakshesh. We better get out of here, he yelled. Mei Ling's chair was empty. Where's the princess? Where's the guard? Sudarshana looked around wildly. Under the table, she screamed. The guard is under the table. There's blood all over his face. Where's Mei Ling? There, Dakshesh pointed across the yard to the archway that led out of the bazaar. Chengli swung around just in time to see a man carrying Mei Ling, kicking and screaming out through the gate. Stop him! Chengli yelled to anyone within earshot. He's got our princess! Somebody do something! His cries slid unnoticed into the chaos. He stood frozen in confusion as his thoughts raced from Mei Ling to the wounded soldiers still under the table and back to Mei Ling. Suddenly he yelled, Go! Go! And his body flew into action. Far ahead at the archway he saw the man holding Mei Ling push through the crowd of people and jump onto a waiting horse. Chengli ran until he recognized the royal guard's powerful horse tied to a post. He stopped. His breath locked in his throat. I can't do this, he thought. I can't get on that animal. I can't ride horses. He shook his head and gasped for breath. His eyes clamped shut. Then he heard clearly in his head the words about his father. Loved horses. Powerful rider. I will, he shouted. I am my father's son. And he pulled himself up onto the back of the horse. Go, he shouted, and the horse took off. Chengli dug his knees into the horse's side and hung onto its mane with all of his strength. Go, 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 he shouted again, and the horse strained forward to follow the trail of dust leading toward the distant mountain.